In a world that champions democracy and human rights as the ultimate benchmarks of progress, it's easy to assume these principles are inviolable. Yet, beneath the veneer of liberty and justice lies a more complex reality. History is replete with instances where the rhetoric of rights has been weaponized, manipulated, or exploited as a cover for misconduct, deception, and authoritarian ambition. Are these ideals truly immune to misuse, or do they sometimes serve as smokescreens for those seeking to undermine genuine justice? As we delve into the delicate balance between protecting liberties and safeguarding societal stability, we must ask ourselves, when, if ever, should the pursuit of democracy and human rights be restricted? The answer holds profound implications for how we understand justice, power, and accountability in today's world. Balancing democracy and human rights, the need for certain limitations. In the modern world, democracy and human rights are regarded as fundamental pillars of a just and equitable society. Democracy promotes participation, equality, and accountability, while human rights safeguard individual freedoms from abuses and ensure human dignity. However, as societies develop, it becomes apparent that an unfettered application of these principles can sometimes lead to conflicts with other societal needs. Moreover, history reveals that some individuals or groups have exploited the language of democracy and human rights as cover-ups for imposture, manipulation, or misconduct. Consequently, it is argued that democracy and human rights must sometimes be limited based on specific criteria to maintain societal stability, security, and the overall common good. This essay explores the rationale behind such limitations, supported by both historical and contemporary examples. The role of democratic liberties and human rights. Democratic freedoms, such as free speech, assembly, and voting, allow citizens to influence governance and pursue social progress. Human rights, including freedoms from torture, discrimination, and arbitrary detention, protect individuals' dignity. Their strength fosters progress, innovation, and respect for diversity. Yet, their exercise can be misused, and the rhetoric of rights has historically been exploited to justify questionable actions. When rights are misused as cover-ups, political manipulation and the illusion of legitimacy. Democracies can be manipulated by those seeking power through deceit, using the language of rights to justify illegitimate actions. For example, in the post-election period of Zimbabwe, 2000s, ruling elites claimed to uphold democratic principles but manipulated electoral processes to retain power, often under the guise of respecting democratic norms. These governments might suppress opposition or fix elections, claiming they are defending democracy, even as they undermine it. Bratton and Masunungure, 2011. Human rights as a cover for oppressive actions. Authoritarian regimes have occasionally used the language of human rights to mask repression. For instance, the Cuban government has publicly claimed to respect human rights while suppressing political dissent, imprisoning opposition activists and controlling media, arguing that stability and security justify these restrictions. Freedom House, 2020. Similarly, the Chinese government emphasizes the protection of human rights in its constitution but has been criticized for mass detentions, suppression of religious freedoms, and repression of ethnic minorities like the Uyghurs. Human Rights Watch, 2021. Exploiting rights for personal gains. Some individuals or groups exploit democratic rhetoric to advance personal or group interests under false pretenses. For example, populist leaders in Hungary and Poland have invoked human rights language to justify crackdowns on judiciary independence or press freedom, claiming they are defending national sovereignty and cultural identity. Critics argue that this manipulates democratic norms to entrench authoritarian tendencies. Freedom House, 2022. Diplomatic cover for illicit activities. Countries sometimes invoke the principles of democracy and human rights to obscure unlawful state activities. For instance, during the Cold War, some regimes claimed to be defending democracy while engaging in corruption, espionage, or oppressive tactics. Contemporary examples include certain authoritarian regimes describing their actions as defending sovereignty, even when involving illegal activities such as cyber espionage or money laundering. Center for Strategic and International Studies, 2019. The need for responsible application and oversight. The misuses of democratic and human rights rhetoric emphasize the importance of vigilance and accountability. Democratic institutions, judicial oversight, and independent media are essential to prevent abuses and expose manipulations. As history shows, a failure to scrutinize claims of legitimacy and rights can lead to the erosion of genuine democracy and human rights protections. Although democracy and human rights are fundamental to fostering justice, equality, and individual dignity, their potential for misuse cannot be overlooked. Throughout history, various regimes and individuals have exploited the language of these principles as cover-ups to conceal oppressive actions, manipulate public perception, or justify misconduct. Examples such as electoral manipulations in Zimbabwe, authoritarian repression in Cuba and China, populist undermining of democratic norms in Hungary and Poland, and Cold War-era propaganda illustrate how the rhetoric of rights can be turned into tools of deception. Therefore, a responsible and vigilant approach is crucial. Democratic institutions, judicial independence, free press, and international oversight serve as vital safeguards against such abuses. It is essential that societies maintain transparency, accountability, and scrutiny when invoking these principles, ensuring their genuine purpose, to protect and promote human dignity, is upheld. Recognizing and addressing misuse not only preserves the integrity of democracy and human rights but also ensures they serve their true purpose, fostering fair, free, and just societies. A just and fair approach to holding government elections and voter qualification. Elections are fundamental to democratic governance, functioning as the primary mechanism through which citizens exercise their political rights. A legitimate, fair, and transparent electoral process not only legitimizes the government but also fosters public trust and social cohesion. To achieve such a system, it is critical to establish clear, just methods for conducting elections and to carefully classify and qualify voters in a way that filters out malicious actors or voters who might be swayed or manipulated by populist or deceptive candidates. Principles of a just electoral system. A just electoral system must be founded on core principles that uphold fairness, inclusivity, transparency, accountability, and integrity. These principles act as guiding standards for designing the electoral process. Equality. Every eligible voter should have an equal say in elections, with no discrimination based on race, gender, religion, or socioeconomic status. Transparency. Processes should be open and observable, minimizing opportunities for manipulation or corruption. Integrity. Measures should be in place to ensure votes are accurately counted and reflect voters' genuine preferences. Inclusivity. All citizens who meet the eligibility criteria should be able to participate without undue barriers. Accountability. Electoral authorities must be accountable to the public, with mechanisms for addressing complaints and rectifying irregularities. For example, countries like Estonia utilize secure digital voting systems that increase accessibility while maintaining transparency and security. Similarly, New Zealand's Electoral Commission operates with high levels of independence and oversight, fostering trust in the electoral process. Criteria and procedures for voter qualification. To prevent malicious or manipulated votes from distorting election outcomes, clear, consistent, and robust voter qualification criteria should be implemented. 1. Legal citizenship. Only citizens holding legal documentation should be eligible to vote. This prevents foreign influence or unauthoritarian manipulation. 2. Minimum age limit. Setting a rational minimum age, e.g., 18 years, ensures voters possess sufficient maturity and understanding of civic responsibilities. 3. Residency requirements. Voters should have a tangible connection to their electoral district or country. For instance, a common practice is requiring at least 6 months of residency before voting, as in Canada, to affirm that voters are invested in their community's well-being. 4. Voter registration and verification. Implement secure systems, such as biometric identification, national ID cards, or digital verification, to confirm voter identity and prevent duplicate or false registrations. For example, India's voter ID system uses biometric fingerprints and photographs to ensure authenticity. 5. Civic education. Informing citizens about electoral procedures, candidate policies, and their rights diminishes susceptibility to misinformation and populist narratives. Filtering malicious or manipulated voters. While inclusive participation is essential, measures must also guard against malicious voters or those influenced by deceptive tactics. 1. Advanced verification technologies. Employ biometric verification at polling stations and digital platforms to prevent impersonation or multiple voting. For example, biometric verification was successfully used in countries like Ghana and Namibia to reduce fraud. 2. Independent electoral commissions. Establish autonomous bodies with the authority to oversee elections, investigate irregularities, and enforce legal consequences for violations. The U.S. Federal Election Commission and South Africa's Independent Electoral Commission exemplify such institutions. 3. Monitoring and auditing. Use real-time data analytics to detect abnormal voting patterns, such as disproportionately high turnout in certain districts or unusual vote surges, which may indicate fraud or coercion. Electronic voting machines can facilitate auditing, provided they are secure against hacking. 4. Voter education and civic campaigns. Running awareness campaigns counteracts misinformation, teaches voters how to recognize populist disinformation, and emphasizes the importance of free and fair elections. For example, organizations like the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, IFES, work globally to improve electoral literacy. 5. Legal deterrence. Implement strict laws with hefty penalties for voter suppression, coercion, or fraudulent activities, thereby discouraging malicious attempts to influence election outcomes. 6. Community engagement. Engage civil society and local leaders to build trust and identify potential manipulative practices early. Additional examples and considerations. Case of populist manipulation. In Hungary, populist leaders have relied heavily on misinformation and emotional appeals to sway voters. A robust electoral framework with independent verification and civic education can mitigate such tactics. Digital voting and cybersecurity. Estonia's e-voting is globally recognized but underscores the need for advanced cybersecurity measures. Potential risks include hacking or data breaches, which must be addressed comprehensively. Inclusivity versus security balance. While expanding voting rights to marginalized groups enhances democracy, it is vital to implement safeguards to ensure these votes are genuine, such as verifying residency and citizenship diligently. Achieving a just electoral system requires a balanced approach that guarantees broad participation while filtering out malicious and manipulated votes. Designing transparent, secure, and inclusive qualification procedures, supported by robust verification, civic education, and independent oversight, will protect the integrity of elections. This ensures that the outcomes genuinely reflect the will of the people and that democratic legitimacy is preserved. Furthermore, fostering a culture of civic responsibility and integrity benefits the entire electoral process. Governments should invest not only in technological safeguards but also in civic education initiatives that emphasize the importance of voting ethics and informed participation. Countries like Finland and Singapore have successfully integrated comprehensive civic education into their curricula, resulting in high levels of voter engagement and trust in election processes. Another critical aspect is addressing electoral disenfranchisement. Barriers such as complex registration procedures, language difficulties, and inaccessible polling stations can suppress legitimate voter participation. Implementing measures like mail-in ballots, online registration, and accessible polling locations allows more citizens to exercise their rights without undue hardship. Thus, establishing a fair and just electoral process involves multiple interconnected components: clear eligibility criteria, advanced verification technology, independent oversight, civic education, and inclusive accessibility. When these elements work in harmony, they create a resilient electoral system capable of filtering out malicious influence, detecting and preventing fraud, and ensuring that the elected government truly represents the collective will of the populace. This foundation strengthens democratic institutions, enhances public confidence, and ultimately fosters social stability and progress. Citizens hold the power. how you can foster just elections and a strong democracy. Imagine living in a country where your voice truly counts, where elections are fair, transparent, and reflect the genuine will of the people. That dream isn't just for politicians or election officials, it's a vision that each of us has the power to bring to life. By becoming active, informed, and responsible citizens, we can shape a democratic system rooted in justice and integrity. Stay informed and educate others. Knowledge is your most powerful tool. Dive into understanding how elections work in your country. Know the voting laws, registration processes, and what makes elections fair or flawed. Share this knowledge with friends and family, because an informed electorate is the best safeguard against misinformation and manipulation. Attend community forums, follow credible news sources, and participate in civic education programs. When everyone is educated about their rights and responsibilities, the collective strength of the people can drive positive change. Exercise your voting rights thoughtfully. Your vote is your voice, use it responsibly. Participate in every election, local and national. But don't just vote blindly, research candidates, understand their policies, and assess their integrity. Encourage others to do the same. Your active participation sets a standard that voting is a serious act of civic duty, not just a routine. By turning voting into a meaningful decision, you help keep the electoral process honest. Challenge corruption and unfair practices. If you witness election irregularities, voter suppression, or corruption, speak out. Report suspicious activity to independent electoral bodies or civil society organizations that monitor election fairness. Support initiatives that promote transparency, such as overseeing voting procedures or promoting digital security measures. Remember, silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Your voice can help protect the integrity of democracy. Engage in community and civil society initiatives. Join or support organizations working to strengthen democratic practices. Volunteer, donate, or participate in initiatives that promote civic literacy, voter registration, or anti-corruption measures. Your active involvement helps build resilient communities where democratic values thrive and inspire others to follow suit. Hold leaders accountable. Democracy doesn't end at the ballot box. Hold leaders accountable throughout their terms. Attend public meetings, ask tough questions, and demand transparency about policies and election fairness. When citizens hold leaders accountable, it discourages corruption and populist tactics that threaten justice. Promote inclusivity and respect diversity. A just democracy respects every citizen's voice, regardless of background or beliefs. Advocate for equitable access to voting, oppose discrimination and voter suppression, and foster inclusive dialogues. When communities unite in respecting diversity, the foundation of democracy becomes stronger and more resilient. Inspire others to act. Be a role model and motivate others to participate actively in civic life. Share stories about how your community has made a difference by standing up for electoral fairness. Organize events, discussions, or campaigns encouraging civic engagement. Collective action amplifies individual efforts. Together, we can create a culture where justice and integrity are the norms. In the end, a just democracy depends on the choices and actions of its citizens. Your voice, your vote, and your commitment to honesty and fairness are the driving forces behind an electoral system that truly serves the people. Step into your role as a guardian of democracy, because an engaged citizenry is the most powerful force ensuring justice, integrity, and progress for all.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future ideas that challenge us to think outside the box. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, and don't forget to always maintain that curiosity that drives progress. Also, explore even more fascinating content on our channel. From life-changing tips and cutting-edge technology, to the mysteries of spirituality, travel to various countries, delicious recipes, health hacks, and language learning, there's something here to spark your curiosity and elevate your life. Dive in and discover a world of knowledge awaits us.